We are now joined by SNY contributor John Harper. And Harp, how unlikely is this perfect game when you think of how poorly German pitched in his last two starts?
Yeah, I mean, he was booed off the mound at the stadium the last time out, 10 runs. I mean, but that's kind of the nature of his career, really. When he's on, especially with that curveball, his breaking stuff, he can be dominant as anybody, and he's shown flashes of that throughout his career. And yet, there's other nights when he doesn't have his command and he gets banged around like he did his last couple of starts. He's obviously had an up and down year as it is. He had the sticky stuff, suspension, and all that. So. Really, yeah, kind of out of nowhere in one sense, but as you heard Higashioka say, he's also a guy that he thought could do something like this just because his arsenal, he's got like 3 or 4 pitches he commands, and when he's on, he commands them all. He can be as good as anybody. You
mentioned his stuff. What stood out to you as why German was so effective on Wednesday night against Oakland?
Yeah, mostly that curveball. I mean, he had the A's swinging at it all night, chasing it all night. It actually reminded me a little bit of Cohn's no-hitter against a young Expos team, not a good team. Just like the A's are not a good offensive team. They got basically the worst numbers in major leagues offensively. And German took advantage. I don't want to downplay the perfect game because that's awfully hard to do. We don't see many of them anymore. Pitch counts and everything else. So it's quite an achievement. But still, he did take advantage of a pretty poor offensive team and got them to chase that curveball all night long.
You mentioned how unlikely a perfect game is, first since 2012, and some of the smart Alecs in the SNY newsroom were saying, what's more unlikely, German pitching a perfect game or Aaron Boone not taking him out of the game? But I don't know anything about smart Alecs in the newsroom. But
no.
Hart, you mentioned the inconsistency being an issue for German throughout his career, and momentum in baseball is so tricky. But how do you think this kind of accomplishment could change the trajectory of German's season?
Well, you got to see from here. I mean, it always feels like he's on the verge of having a kind of a breakout year. I know he did win 18 games the one year, but a lot of that was run support. He's never really been able to be consistent enough to get that ERA down and, just continue to turn in consistent starts. So maybe this could be a springboard, but I have a feeling it's more like just kind of the nature of his career. When he's on, he's great. When he's not on, he's going to get hit. So the Yankees don't need him to be an ace. Really, this is the kind of thing you expect from Garrett Cole at some point. But when you got a guy like this and he's at the back of your rotation, if you get guys like Cortez back and you get Rodon back, then this guy really can be such a special weapon at the back of the rotation. I think it's the biggest thing as far as the big picture for the Yankees.
Hart, we saw his stuff, obviously, lights out against an Oakland A's team that's not great. But as you mentioned, lights out, hasn't been a perfect game in a while here in Major League Baseball. So you see the ability. What's holding him back from being more consistency? You talk to scouts, you're around the Yanks. What seems to be the reason why he just can't get over the hump and get that consistency?
Yeah, when I've asked around about him over the years, scouts are kind of puzzled because it's a guy that he's so dominant when he lands that curveball, when he commands it as he did tonight, that he looks like a guy that should be dominant all the time, but he whether it's release point or whatever, he's not able to do that consistently, and that's the kind of guy that drives pitching coaches crazy because obviously he has the ability, doesn't have the command. So I'm not sure he's ever going to be a guy that's going to do it on a consistent basis because if he could do it, he probably would have done it by now. So he's probably going to be one of those guys that's going to leave people scratching their heads at times. But when you get this kind of performance, you got to appreciate it.
Domingo German joining the Yankee history books with the 4th perfect game in franchise history. John Harper, thanks for joining us here on Honda Sports Night. We appreciate the time.